Hi guys, and welcome to day 7 of the 30-day Mean Stack Honolulu challenge. We left off in the previous video with we sort of half created our login page, or half gotten our login page to start to look like our wireframe. I just popped that open here. What we're going to do today is a little bit more styling for the login page. And have a bit of a look at the other Angular related directives that are already existing for us on this page. So let's get right into it. So we're going to just add in a little bit of CSS and get this page sort of styled out like the way that we'd like. So we're going to have this white sort of background going on, and we'll put in a little bit of space at the bottom here, and then for our next page, we want to add in a little bit of styling for this alert that we want to display as well. So let's do that. So to start off with, I'm going to create a CSS style. So I'll just go across the div class where we've got, so this is line 2 at the moment, and at the end of that I'm going to put in create a class, might call it login form. I'll just call it background, so BG. Just copy that, and I'm going to go and find, so for the users module, which is the module that we're looking at, I'm going to go across to CSS, open up users CSS, and just put in a dot and then paste in the class that we've just created. And for this class, I'm going to make the background color white. Going to make the border, so let's say 15 pixels, and make that solid. And we're going to have a slight border radius. I see there's a slight round edge on the border there, so we're going to give that a border radius of let's just go with 15 pixels. And we'll add a border color. So we need some color for the border. Just make that white as well. And the other thing I want to do is I want to add a bit of a margin to the top to make sure that and when we're looking at it in a tablet or desktop device, we've got a bit of a margin going on. I'm going to add the margin generically here, but obviously if you want your margins to be different for a mobile versus a tablet or a desktop device, media queries is the way that you can actually make them a bit more different. So make that a bit smaller, extend that out again, and we're just going to add a margin to the top. So grab margin top and just make that 50 pixels for now. Okay, great. So that should give us a bit of a background. So if we go and have another look, there you go. You see Grunt's already refreshed and it's kicked in, giving us a bit of a background, and it just refreshed again and it's dropped down about 50 pixels. The next thing I want to do is have a look at that error message that we had over here. So if we look at that, if I can just test that just by clicking the sign in button, and you see it's coming back with missing credentials. Now, just on a side note, if you wanted to change that message of missing credentials to something else, that's actually living in the Passport files itself. So that's part of the Passport package. So for example, if I wanted to find that code, so let's take a slight detour. I'd go to Node modules. So if I go to the app that I'm in Node modules, jump down to Passport local, because this is the local strategy. If I go to lib and go to strategy, I can see that the Passport authentication actually is sitting in here, and that's where the missing credentials message is actually coming from. I don't really recommend changing this here, because if Passport was to update their packages, it would overwrite your changes. But you can manipulate that within the controller if you so wish. So I'm just going to close that. Just go back to what we were doing. Close that as well. So I want to actually wrap this particular message here in a bit of an alert, and that's just an alert that you can find in Bootstrap. So if you go to Bootstrap, just go to components and go down to alerts, you can see you can have a whole heap of different alerts. The alert that we're going to do is a red one. I'm just going to grab alert.danger. So let me just copy that piece there and go back to sign in. And the alert is this bit here. This bit of code is actually saying that there's an ng show directive sitting on here that will only show the code within these div tags if there's an error message, or if this error scope is true. So if it's populated with something. So we can leave that as it is, but what we want to do is just put our alert in here, and we want to wrap it around the actual alert message itself. So we can get rid of those and just put that in here. Oops. Okay, that's almost there. What we'll also find, if I left this as it is, you probably notice that the formatting for the alert isn't quite aligned with the fields underneath it, and I'll just show you that. So if I just save, just waiting for that to refresh, and once it does, I'll just click sign in again and just get it to show us the error message. Okay, so if I sign in again, see, now I've got the error message, but the length isn't quite right. It's sort of off slightly, and that's because we're using this form group here, and that's got its own sort of margins and padding around it. So you can just add that to the ng show. I'll just actually throw it all the way around it, just to keep it consistent with the code that's below. And I'll save that, and then I'll see when that restarts. I'll just test that again, and we should see that the error message is extending all the way across. All right, great. So that's what we were hoping to do there. One more thing that I noticed is that in the wireframe we have a little bit of space, not on this one, over here, just between the password field and the login. And so what I'm going to do is just add a bit of a space. So I can do that by just adding in a break. Probably should just have that as a close tag. So save that, and that would just give me a little bit of space between the there you go, so a little bit of space between the password field and the sign in. So that's more or less, now we've got our login page looking like our wireframe. But before I wrap it up, I just want to take you quickly through the code that we've got for this login page, and some of the Angular bits of code that are kind of taking place here. So at the very top, we've got the ng controller. So this is the controller that we would expect the Angular related directives to have an influence on, or to be influenced by. So that's where we would look to start to look at finding things like, for this ng show, this error scope, what is that and where is that coming from? So we'll have a look in a second, just have a quick look at that controller. So we've got the ng show, which is showing this bit of code if there's an error, so if error is true. We've got the ng bind, and that's just pulling or binding the data in the error scope to the strong codes to make that bold. This code here is just Bootstrap. When we get to this input type, which is this actual input field here, it's mapped to the ng model credentials.username, and that's important because that's what's actually displaying or being used to submit the data through the view to the controller, to the service, up to the app for validation. And same with the input type for password. So again, we've got the ng model here for the password credential, and then lastly we've got this the button type of submit. So when this form is submitted, we've got this ng submit that's waiting for a submission to occur in the form, and when that happens, it's going to call the sign in function So what we'd expect is that when we look at the authentication controller, there should be a sign-in function over there that is triggered by the submission of this form. So let's have a look at that. If you're using WebStorm, you can just hit Control and then click on the controller, or we can go across to Modules, Users, go to Controllers, and we'll just have a look at the authentication controller. So that's the one we're looking for. And here it is here. So the module for users has this controller for authentication. It's got a few different dependencies that are being passed through to that controller, so making that available on that view. And the key kind of functions that this control offers are sign up and sign in. So when we're looking at sign in, we're looking at doing a post to auth-sign in. So this is a route that we could then look at when we're looking at the routes for our app. There's a scope of credentials which is actually passing through. So we know that we had a credential.username, credential.password. So both of these items as part of the data model form the credentials scope, and they're actually being passed through to auth/sign in. And then we've got kind of two responses. One is if there's a success and there's a response, then we mark sort of the user as being authenticated, and we can then test for this in other parts of the app. Or we can actually get back an error. So if the credentials are not successful, if there's an error, then we'll get the response that comes back as part of that message, and we map that response message to the scope of error, and that process is what determines whether or not the error message is actually displayed on the view or not. So that's where we'll leave it today. A little bit of homework for you. If you're feeling brave, go through and apply all the things that we've done to the sign-in page, and see if you can do that and apply that to the sign-up page, and let me know how you go. So please subscribe to the channel, check out Bossable.com for more details, and I'll catch you tomorrow with our next Mean app update. See you then.